It's all good. Don't know where time goes, but it goes by quickly. It was just, it seemed like a little while ago that we were in Beaver Creek celebrating the feast, and here we are again. And time's passing very quickly. Life passes very quickly. And I was having a conversation with my mom a few years ago. She was in her mid-80s. Mom is now 93. But I told Mom that, Mom, I've had a wonderful childhood. I said, I've had a wonderful life. And she was kind of awe-stricken by that and saying, well, she was surprised by that because, growing up on the farm, we seemed like we worked all the time, but that's what gave me the joy, was the work and the growing up on the farm. Mr. Fritz said the other day how he could just look at the water for hours and how peaceful it was, how beautiful it was. I've had the opportunity my whole life to look upon the cattle in green pastures, grazing. My whole life, I've had the distinct gift from God to be able to see new calves born, to see God's creation and to work amongst God's creation. And as I told my mom, it's been a wonderful life. It hasn't always been easy. As you can tell, I'm 45 and white-haired. But it's been good. It's been, in fact, extraordinary, the life that God has given to me. And a lot of it was because of our family. It was Mom and Dad who grew up on the farm, but yet never inherited anything from their parents, but yet they took the opportunity when they were first married to start buying land. As Mom was a school teacher, second grade school teacher, and Dad would be the manager of the grain elevator, the Farm Bureau Co-op. And they would give their three sons a life, like I said, that was very extraordinary. And that life continues today, and I'm thankful for it. And that's what I wanted to talk about, though, here today is, as this is the blessing of the children and life, the gift of life that God has given to us. The gift that we have as a family. The family is so important. God is creating that family. We are here as a family. We are brothers and sisters in the body of Christ, in the body and the church of God. We are family. And I enjoy being here with you at God's feast. I don't get to see most of you but once a year here at the feast, at the holy days. That's not often enough. But I do remember once a year, as my grandmother was one of 14 children, that there would be a great family reunion once a year. And it was a special time that we would get together as a family down on the farm. Or my great-granddad, who lived to be 101, an immigrant from Hamburg, Germany, came to America, met my great-grandmother in Chicago. She was from Poland, and they had 14 children together. And they were out on the farm, actually just a couple miles from where my home farm is now. But that was special, the aunts and uncles and everyone there. They were great aunts and great uncles and cousins. It was a special time. It was family time. And I love those times. But unfortunately, that generation passed away. And we no longer have those family reunions where there's 150 people. We have family reunions of maybe 20-some of the remnants of the family that can get together. But we're here celebrating God's feast as his family. And that's what I, again, would like to talk about today. The responsibility, or the title, Our Responsibility for Building a Godly Family. You know, it starts in the book of Genesis. So we're going to start there as we go to Genesis chapter 1 in the creation week. We'll go to chapter 1 of Genesis, and I'd like to start in verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. Two genders, male and female, to start a family. Verse 28, then God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." But God wanted Adam and Eve to be fruitful, to multiply, to fill the earth with future sons and daughters of God in his kingdom. In Genesis 2, start in verse 18, and the Lord God said, Genesis 2, verse 18, and the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper." My Bible is compatible to him, or comparable to him. Out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field, every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. So Adam gave names to the cattle, the birds of the air, every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. And the eternal God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in his place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father, his mother, and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." So here God created the family, Adam and Eve, to multiply, to have children. And nearly 6,000 years later, the earth is over 8.3 or 4 billion people that stem from the lineage of our first parents, of Adam and Eve. God is creating a family. As we turn to Ephesians chapter 3, if you turn to Ephesians chapter 3, verse 14, we'll start. Paul says, "For this reason I bow my knees to the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, from whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named." God's family in heaven. And we have the distinct opportunity to be here, to be a part of that, to grow, to become like God, and our ultimate destiny to be a part of that ultimate family of God, to be with him for eternity. This is his plan for you and me. This is God's, what he has in store for all of us, to create within us help us to create that perfect character in us, that we may be counted worthy to be a part of God's family. God created Adam first, so I do want to talk about the father's responsibilities first. God did ordain, he did create the male as the dominant parent. He was to become the breadwinner. By the sweat of his brow, he was to provide for his family. He's the disciplinarian. How many times have we heard mom say to us, when your father gets home? God wanted man to be the disciplinarian. He teaches his family. The male that God created, Adam, plays many roles in the family. In 1 Timothy, we'll turn to 1 Timothy while we're in Ephesians. 1 Timothy chapter 5. 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. Paul's telling Timothy here, but if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. God expects us to not only create a family, he expects us to take care of our family. He expects us to go out, to work, to provide. He expects us to be the man of the house, the masculine man. Don't let anybody take the masculine part out of it. That's what our world is trying to do today, trying to make sissies out of the men, out of our children, out of our boys. We have to be masculine. One could be lazy. God talks about that. You don't work, you don't eat. Unfortunately, there are situations in life where, people may spend more time at the bar than they do at their job. Again, God expects us to provide for our family. There are many instances that we could claim that why we don't, but there is really no excuse. We are also, the man does his part to educate his children. And while we're in here, we'll go turn back to Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6, we'll start in verse 1. It says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and that you may live long on the earth. And you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and the admonition of the eternal. So children, God commands you to honor your parents. If you want to live well, live long in your life, honor mom and dad. And fathers, we are to bring them up. We are to train them. We are to give them that guidance in life that will set them on the path in this life, this short life that God gives us, in careers, in families, how a family is, our society that we live in, how we are to act. We're to do all these things. We are to train up a child in that admonition of God, in teaching the things of God also. Proverbs 13, let's turn to Proverbs 13. Proverbs chapter 13, we're going to go to verse 24. We all know this. He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. So God expects us as fathers to, when children get out of line, He does expect us to correct them, to set them back on the right course, so that their life is without issues. It won't be totally without issues, but we should do our best, again, to direct them and keep them on the straight and the narrow, as it is said. About 35 years ago, I think it's been 35, maybe a little bit. No, it's been longer than that. But anyways, it's probably about 1986 or 87. But anyways, our son Josh was just, I think, 6 years old. At the time on the farm, we grew multiple things. One of them was Orville Redenbacher popcorn. One Sunday afternoon, we were harvesting, and Josh he was only 6 years old, like I said, but I let him drive the tractor in the open field so that he would learn, and in the open field, he would have an opportunity, to make some mistakes, but it wouldn't crash the tractor or do anything like that. But he would learn. Well, it was getting dark. It was Sunday evening. And I got on the radio and I said, Josh, it's time to be heading to the barn. Take the tractor up to the barn. You got school tomorrow. Well, I didn't hear anything. So I let him go up and down the field one more time. I got on the radio. I said, Josh, a little sterner. It's time to take the tractor to the shed. You got school tomorrow, so get it up there. You're going to be heading home pretty soon. Again, didn't hear anything. So I didn't say anything else, and the tractor went up and down the field like 5 more times. It was dark. He had the lights on. We had to stop harvesting. The dew was setting in. We couldn't harvest any longer. So the tractors go up to the farm, up to the shed, and we go home, which home was a couple miles. And we go in the house, and I set Josh down, and I said, son, I told you to take the tractor up to the shed, explained to him what he did wrong, told him that I loved him, but I said, for every time that you went up and down the field, I have to give you a spanking. So there were 5 spankings, or 5 swats that were coming. And so I did. I pulled down his pants. It wasn't on the pants. It was on skin for skin. And I spanked Josh 5 times. He cried. And, I held him and I told him I loved him. And then I went outside and, of course, I cried. It's hard. It's hard for a parent to do, to spank your children. Josh was mad at me for 2 days, wouldn't talk to me or speak to me. But God expects us, when we tell our children for their own well-being, for their own good, to please do something, we expect them to obey, and when not, then we have to do our part as a parent to give direction and to give guidance. And I would say at the age of 42, he's doing very well. And on the right path, home on the farm with me, and we have a wonderful and a great relationship. In Psalms 103, verse 13. Psalms 103, verse 13. As a father pities his children, or he has compassion on his children, so the Lord pities or has compassion on those who do fear him. And we do love our children. We do let them get away with things that aren't so severe. But when there are severe things that need attention, we have to pay attention to that, and we have to take care of that. Now, as grandparents, we don't think like we used to think when we were parents. So as grandparents, it's a little bit different. The grandkids, get away with a few more things than what the kids did. That's just how we are as grandparents. But a father does take the necessary actions that he does to be able to keep his children, again, on the straight and narrow. He has compassion. He has love for them. I grew up in a generation where, grandparents, they were there. They loved us. You knew they loved us. When we were out in the fields, we were just little kids out in the field on the tractors. We would see my grandmother and my grandfather come in their own old green pickup. So my grandfather was a retired farmer. And they would bring us out ice cold water, and Grandma would have baked some cookies. She'd bring us out a mason jar, an old canning jar, filled with ice cold water, wrapped in newspaper to keep it cold. They were from the old school. There wasn't no thermos or anything, an old mason jar, but that water was so good, and fresh baked cookies. They looked out for us. They loved us. We knew it. But I don't remember ever getting a hug. I know I didn't from my grandfather. I don't think I did from Grandma either. It was just a different generation and a different people. There was no saying, I love you. With today, it's so different. As we say, we love you. We smother our kids with love and kisses, and especially the grandkids. We care for them deeply. Those kids, our grandkids, don't go a day without Grandma and Grammy and Grampy saying, I love you, giving hugs, giving kisses, and doing whatever, we can for them. I had a friend that's 20 years older than me. He grew up by us. Like I said, even though he was 20 years older than me, I knew him. He was a good guy. He came from a family of 14. This isn't my grandma's family. It's another family of 14, and they were a good German family also. So something in the water there. The 14 kids come out. I don't know what the deal was, but anyways, he was one of 14 children. And I hadn't seen him for many years. He had moved away about an hour and a half from home there. And he's up in his 80s. And I saw his brother, which still lives by us, and I asked about him. And I went down. He was in assisted living. And I went down to visit him. I was at the teen camp, flew into Indianapolis on the way home. I stopped by and saw my friend and in the assisted living. He was telling me a little bit about his childhood, and he told me a little bit about his dad. And I knew his dad. His dad was a grumpy old guy. If you said the sun was yellow, he'd say, no, it's green or blue. He was just a contrary fella. As I was talking to my friend, he said, my dad taught me how to be a dad. He taught me the things that I didn't want to do as a father. And my friend was a great father. But his dad, I don't know how to state it. I'm trying to be nice, but his dad, well, I'll tell you what he told me. And it's kind of sad. He said, someone should have taken a 2x4 and knocked my dad in the head. And I understood where he came from. But still, it was his father. But again, he learned from his dad what not to do. He wanted to be a good dad. So he learned the things that made him a good dad. And that's what we must do, brethren. We must follow God's law and his way as he directs us, that we pass that on to our children. As our Father gives us direction, he gives us correction. we ourselves have to do our part as parents to make sure that our kids, we do our best to get them on the right path in life. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, God does give us the instruction. Deuteronomy chapter 6. I'll start in verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And those words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets before your eyes. So God expects us to talk to our children. I'm very proud, or I should say I'm very pleased as a father, that my son with his 3 boys, when the holy days come up, that he sits down with them and explains the meaning of that day to them every year, every holy day that comes every year, so that they know what the holy days are about, what is God's plan for us. And that's what God commands us to do. He wants us to teach our children, to help them. We have to be involved in our children's education. If we're not, someone else is going to be. And that is our adversary, the devil. That's our adversary, Satan. Our kids are going to be educated one way or the other. It's going to be in God's way, or it's going to be in the world's way. And we have to do our part to be so involved in our children's life. A weekly comment was put out by my grandson Walker's teacher, and my son. Everything's digital anymore. You get on, you find out their grades, you find out what's going on. Well, this was a weekly comment on paper that she sent home with Walker. Walker would be in 4th grade. This is from Mrs. Libby. She said, Walker works well independently. If I know he knows something in math already, I'll give him the task to do it on his own, a shortened task, an alternative task, and etc. Him and my math facts challenge. He's doing these hard pages, and I ask, how do you do that? The teacher asked Walker, her student, how do you do that? He tells me he takes a page home and his dad shows him, which is totally cool, says the teacher and all. But I remind him, I will gladly teach him too. Thanks, Dad, she writes, for your help. We have to be involved with our kids. If they're going to be successful in life, we have to invest in our children. If we do not invest in them, then don't expect much in return. That is the fact of it. It's hard enough in this life when we do strive to do the right things that we can keep them on the right path with all the pulls and all the things that this world offers to our children. Our other grandson, I'm just using them as an example. I know there's lots of examples of a lot of great kids out here. I don't personally know them. I'm only using an example of my family because I know it, I guess. But anyways, the oldest grandson went to preteen camp, right? Okay. But anyways, he likes sports. He likes basketball, and I think maybe he won the horse. They have that the thing of horse in basketball, and someone asked him. He said, "Well, how? You're pretty good. How do you do that?" And he said, "My dad plays with me at home." And every moment that we're not out in the fields, when we have time, when Josh has time, he's outside playing basketball, football, doing something with the kids, interacting. And that's how we need to be as parents. And I know there are many of you here that do the same for your children. And kudos to you. Thank you. Because what you do for your children will hopefully keep them off the streets or out of trouble in the future. God expects us. God expects us to do these things. See? We started at 2:30, right? Okay. I was going to say, I hope I have more than 10 minutes left. Oh, anyways, I better get a drink of water. In 2022, Fox News put out a report, America's Crisis is a Lack of Fathers. And they say, as I read this report, as our country commemorates Father's Day this weekend, it is important that we recognize the millions of children throughout our nation who are growing up without their fathers. Data from the United States Census Bureau shows that nearly 18.5 million children grow up without their fathers, which has in return led to the United States owning the title of the world's leader in fatherlessness. We know that fatherhood is essential to the development of our children, and the increased involvement of fathers in the home leads to better results on a wide variety of outcomes. From economic prosperity, increased academic performance, to improved social mobility, fathers in their respective homes continue to be a key indicator of success for all children across racial, ethnic, and social economic groups. There is little doubt that America is experiencing an unprecedented fatherless crisis. Approximately 80% of single-parent homes are led by single mothers, therefore leading to nearly 25% of our youth growing up without a father in the home. This staggering statistic has not only destroyed the nuclear family, but has devastated communities across the nation. For example, 85% of children and teens with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes, and over 70% of all adolescent patients in drug and alcohol treatment centers originate from homes without fathers. I hope we're getting the point, the importance of fathers, and how God created the father to be the head of the household, to instruct his family. As America deals, it goes on to say, with a crisis in crime, substance abuse, incarceration, decreased social mobility, economic strains, we must acknowledge the impact that fatherlessness has had on all these issues. We must recognize how we as fathers empower, we teach and develop our children. We teach and develop our children plays a direct role in their well-being, their mental health, their ability to persevere through adversity. Beyond the enormous benefits to our children, there are numerous advantages in a society that result from a strong nuclear family. For example, regarding poverty, data shows that children without a father in the home are 5 times more likely to live in poverty than a child in a 2-parent household. Goes on to say, furthermore, research indicates that children without fathers at home are 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and they represent 90% of all homeless and runaway children. That is the sad statistic of fatherlessness in America. They go on to say, and I'm surprised they acknowledge this, the success of our nation depends on 4 central tenets. It's faith, family, then they go on, the free market and education. But it is faith. It is God helping us teaching our children God's way of life for the purpose of our existence. It's family. It's family coming together in a unit to make everything cohesive, with our family, with our children, our grandchildren. They do go on, and I like this also to ask, lastly, to the God-fearing fathers throughout our nation, we ask that you look beyond your own homes and make intentional efforts to coach, to mentor, and to support the fatherless children in your own communities. That, at the very least, we owe to ourselves, our children, and our fellow countrymen. So they acknowledge that. They acknowledge that, we all must take an active role for those that are less fortunate, that we all need to help, to extend the hand. And Jesus Christ does that. He tells us to do the same. It's important what the Father does. We even look at nature. The bald eagles in our area are starting to come back. Last 5-10 years, we're seeing more and more of them, and it's a beautiful sight. When we're out harvesting, and there's usually field mice out there, there's chipmunks or something, pretty soon you'll see a bald eagle come in. But it's Papa Eagle that is providing and hunting for his children, for Mama back in the nest who is taking care of them, that he goes out and he does the hunting for his family to provide the food. We look at every aspect of that. I go by at times where they're nesting and there's the Papa Eagle. He is either right there on the nest, straight up looking around, or he's a couple trees over even, perched up there. But boy, he's attentive. He's looking out after his young ones, after his mate. It's a neat thing to see. And it's all that way in the animal kingdom. Whether it's lions, it's like I said, it's the animal kingdom. The male is always the dominant to provide for his family. God made it that way. It's not only for us, but it's for also the overall kingdom here on this earth. All the aspects, all the animals. I'd like to talk about mothers, because even though the father's role is so important, he's the dominant one. He's the one that provides, and again, he's the one that protects. The mother has her role in the family. The mother is nurturing and caring. The mother is teaching and training her children. A lot of times it's the mother, as we read the fatherless, the numbers of the fatherless. If there's fatherless, that means there's mothers there that are being the head of the household, having to take care of her children. I've known families, unfortunately, and my own family, my grandfather Lawrence, that I never knew. I was 2 years old when he passed away. But I know that he had a terrible alcohol problem. And I know that 6 children, including my dad, it was Mom that kept the family together. It was Mom that nurtured them. It was Mom that clothed them, that comforted them. It was Mom that they could come to have that softness, that touch of humanity. And that's what our mothers do. They are nurturing. They are caring. I was thinking back when I went to school. My kindergarten teacher was Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green. First grade teacher was Mrs. Price. Second grade teacher, Mrs. Kennedy. Third grade teacher, Mrs. Waldsmith. Fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Decker. Fifth grade teacher, finally, a male, Mr. Franklin, comes into the picture. But what I'm saying, our adolescence, it was the women that taught us. And when we got to 5th grade, I got my first paddling, my one and only. So when the teacher walks out, says, I'm going to the office, don't say a word. You guys study, this is what you got to do. Well, he knows better than that. As soon as the door closes, everybody starts talking. He comes back in a little bit later, everybody talking out in the hall. About 50 of us not 50. 15 of us line up, and he just goes down and just whacking away. I got my first my first and only. I learned, shut my mouth when I'm told to. See, the rod, it taught me. Didn't like it, but it taught me. I remember as a young boy, too, going to the doctor when I would have the flu or something. My mom would take me to the doctor. And it was always the nurse that took care of me, took us in, took care of us. And pretty soon, it wouldn't be long, out came the guy that you were scared of. The male doctor, the doctor, with this needle about that long. It seemed like it was that long. When you're 5 years old, 6 years old, oh boy. And man, did I beller when he stuck me with that needle. But again, it's the women that are the vast majority of the nurses because they have that touch, that care. I went in 2 years ago to have my left hip replaced. And when I got out, it was a male doctor who did the replacement. When I came to in the recovery room, it was a few nurses that were taking care of me. Making sure I was waking up, everything was good, bringing me water or whatever I needed, but, make sure that I was well. They nurture, they care. January 12th of this coming year, here, just in a couple, 3 months, I get my right hip replaced. And I had an awful dream last night. Because when I went to the group orthopedics place, when you go in there, they have all these pictures of the doctors, up there. And there's about 20 doctors in this place, but they're all male. There's no female doctors. And I thought I saw Mr. Munson's picture up there. And that he was going to be doing the surgery. And so I thought, what's going to happen? He's going to get the sawzall out and, start cutting away. Take a look at it and, get the new hip in there and takes a big hammer and chisel and pounds it in. And it's not quite there yet, but give me that 20-pound hammer and chisel. I'll get it in there. Suck it up, Todd. But anyways, I know that I'll be well taken care of, and I know that it will be the nurses that come in, and it's just the way God has created the ladies. It's their nature to be loving, to be kind, to be nurturing. They're there supporting their family through thick and thin. It's a servitude in a way that they give to their family. One even said that it's a role of a mother can involve self-emptying and sacrifice, similar to the example of Christ as a servant. When we have children, brethren, you know what? Our life is not our own anymore. We give our life to our children. We invest in them. We do what we can to make sure God has given them to us as these children here, blessed here today. God gives them to us. We alter our life around our children. We alter our life around our grandchildren. I do things today that I didn't do with my son, that I do with my grandchildren. That's just the process or the growing older and how we change and how our thinking is. When Josh was a little boy, we were busy again out on the farm. He would come and ride with me in the combine. I'd put a blanket down, or we had a buddy seat, but when he got tired, I put my coat down on the floor so that he could take a nap. But that's where he learned. And that's why at a very young age, he was able to help old Dad, to teach and to help. And Mom was out there late at night, would bring dinners out to us, bring our food to the field as we kept going. That's what mothers do. They watch over their family. They care for their family. The national, that's not what I wanted. I thought I had another one here on mothers. But parents are so important, again, to the lives and of our children, and helping them to get on the right path in life. And we must do our part. We must, again, invest in them. We must do our part as parents to love them, to care for them, to shelter them, to clothe them, and to give them the direction that they need in life. Psalms 127. Psalms 127. Let's see here. Psalms 127, start in verse 3. Behold, Psalms 127, verse 3. Children are a heritage from the eternal. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. They are. Our children are a blessing. They are our heritage. It is what we work for and strive for. At my age, people say, are you going to retire? Absolutely not. We keep going. I don't want to stop. I want to go for as long as the old body will let me, because it's helping the next generation. It's giving. It's providing for that next generation and the generation after that. That's what my parents did for me. I always make sure that I acknowledge my mom and dad. If people will ask about, our farm or whatever, I will always acknowledge my mom and dad. They were the ones that started it. They were the ones that took the gamble. And they allowed me to have the life that I have today. It was mom and dad. It was their children. Now, I've seen children just throw it away. If you don't value it, if you're not taught to value it, then it doesn't have much meaning. So we have to value what our parents do for us, to thank them for all of the sacrifices in which they do make. In Proverbs 31, let's go to Proverbs real quick, verse 31. Proverbs 31, we'll go to verse 28. Proverbs 31, verse 28. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. The virtuous wife, the virtuous woman. But the children rise up, and they are blessed. They praise their mom for what she has done for them. That nurturing, again, that providing for them. Her teaching them. I don't know, it's probably a lost art today, but I remember my grandmother, knitting and crocheting and doing all those things, being so patient, and I don't know if that's even done today or anymore or not. Could I show? Would you raise your hand if there's someone that knits or crochets or? Okay, awesome. I love that. That's great. That's an art. It's a part of womanhood. But they are called blessed by your children. I'd like to look, as I finish up here, to the church. Again, we are family. We have a father that loves us. We have our elder brother that sacrificed for us on our behalf. And it is a part of who and what God is, what he is creating here, how he created the parents, the mother, the father. If we go to Galatians chapter 4. Galatians chapter 4 and verse, where am I at here? Galatians 4. Yeah, and verse 26. Breaking into a thought here from Paul. He said, but the Jerusalem above is free. This heavenly Jerusalem that is coming. It is free, which is the mother of us all. Jerusalem is going to be the mother of all of humanity. The new Jerusalem that is coming. God identifies her as a mother that will comfort all of her children, all of the earth. She is a mother. Also in Matthew, if we go to Matthew chapter 23, Matthew chapter 23, and I'm going to go to verse 37, Matthew 23 and verse 37. Jesus Christ says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing." Here Jesus Christ is telling Jerusalem, I wanted to protect you. As a mother or as a hen protects her chicks, as she gathers them under her wings, I want to protect you. I sent you the prophets to warn you of your ways. Yet you would not listen. And as a mother hen, God uses her as to show us his concern as a mother, that he wants to bring us into that safe haven that the mother hen would bring him in. Whether it's bad weather, whether it's a varmint or a predator coming after her chicks, that mother will go after those chicks and gather them under her to protect them. And that's what God is saying here to Jerusalem. And that day is coming. That day is coming when Jerusalem will be protected and will be the place where all nations flow up to gather in safety and protection from the mother, from our God. Zechariah 14? Sure, why not? Zechariah 14. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 16. Absolutely, we're going to read it. As it is today that we're celebrating and we're here, it's going to be in the future. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem, let them go up from year to year now to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and keep the Feast of Tabernacles. It shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come up to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. The family of Egypt will not come up, if they do not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the feast. The representatives of the nations will come up someday, and they are going to keep the feast at Jerusalem, that place that God calls the mother. Jerusalem, the mother of us all. That's what Paul said. That new Jerusalem. That place of protection. That place where people can come and worship the true God and know about life, to be taught about life, to reap the rewards now of worshiping God and being dedicated to Him and His way of life. They will reap those rewards. They will come up to Jerusalem in that time. Revelation 20, 22. 21. Revelation 21. Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea. Then I, John, saw the holy city, that new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. He will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, no more sorrow, no more crying. There shall be no more pain. The former things have passed away. No more pain, no more suffering. You see, that mother, New Jerusalem, is coming to comfort her children. In verse 27, but there shall by no means enter it anything that defiles or causes an abomination or a lie. No more sin, brethren, none. It's clean, and it's going to stay that way. There's only going to be light there, only righteousness, but only those who will be written in the book, in the Lamb's book of life. Those are the ones who are going to be there in that New Jerusalem. Verse 22, I don't know what all this means, but in verse 1, he says, And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the middle of its streets, and on either side of the river, was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. That is something that the mind is hard to comprehend, of all that. Of all this, what God is trying to, what he's explaining here. I don't fully understand all of it, but we know it's going to be a place of sanctuary, of peace, happiness, and joy for all of humanity. We know it's going to be a place that, like a mother, a place to come home to, a place where we can have sanctuary and peace and safety and well-being for eternity. That way of life that brings true love for one another. It brings the virtues and the values of life that will ever be a part of us. All nations, all peoples are going to come there and experience the love of that mother, the love of God. It's a great future, a great time to be alive. We live in a time that is very sobering, but it is a time that's exciting as we see the world around us and we see the climatic events that are coming. And this end of this world is coming very quickly. God, our Father, the church, our mother, New Jerusalem, our mother, is coming. And we have to do our part to be counted worthy of being there. Not only, brethren, take care of your personal and your physical family, but let us all take care of our spiritual family too. We can take care of one another because we all want to be a part of that spiritual family that God has ordained and that God is creating.
For more information, go to our website at cogassembly.org. Copyright 2025, Church of God Assembly. All rights reserved.